A Fresno State University professor who had some strong words for Barbara Bush after she passed away was being threatened by possibly getting fired, but it turns out that university officials are not going to fire her because it turns out that she has something known as First Amendment rights. It's crazy. It's almost as if the Constitution has more than just the Second Amendment. Crazy. Yeah. So she's a tenured professor, but that is not the reason why she's able to keep her job. Fresno State is part of the Cal State University system in California. It is publicly funded, meaning that constitutional rights are intact, and if university officials fire her, they are literally violating her First Amendment rights. Now, the university carefully reviewed the facts and consulted with lawyers to determine whether we could take disciplinary action. We have concluded that Professor Jarrar did not violate any CSU or university policies, and that she was acting in a private capacity and speaking about a public matter on her personal Twitter account. Her comments, although disrespectful or disgraceful, are protected free speech under the First Amendment of the US Constitution. So it seemed as though the university officials really wanted to make it clear that they did not like the way that she handled this situation. They did not like her tweets, but even given the fact that they didn't like the tweets, they still have no right to fire her.
So a couple of points here that are important. First of all, it bothers me that they keep calling it disgraceful, and that goes to a much larger point. Because in America, if you are in favor of a war that kills millions of people, not a big deal. Millions of civilians, by the way, man, that's a minor offense. A lot of those guys are back in government. John Bolton, now National Security Advisor, Mike Pompeo, probably going to become Secretary of State soon, et cetera, et cetera. They're all over government. Everybody applauds them. Yes, bravo, honorable gentlemen. And obviously George W. Bush, Barbara Bush's son, et cetera. But if you are slightly disrespectful to anyone in power, woo, that's the third rail. You can't do that. That's a major, major offense. We should all have a national conversation about whether you should be fired. How dare you? Nobody gets fired for actually killing the civilians, but you get fired for saying, hey, that wasn't such a great idea to support the idea to kill the civilians. And that's what she had attacked Barbara Bush about. She said 1.5 million dead Iraqis, and she raised a war criminal and was in favor of the Iraq war. By the way, when asked about civilian deaths in Iraq, Barbara Bush said that her beautiful mind couldn't be bothered with that.
Yeah.
So I would argue that that is far more disgraceful a comment than anything the professor said.
Well, Barbara Bush was in a position of power, and as a person who has all the privilege in the world, you're able to refer to Hurricane Katrina victims who had to be displaced in the Houston Astrodome. You get to refer to them as underprivileged, and they're better off in the Astrodome anyway. Like you're able to make those types of disgraceful statements without having to worry about losing, a job or really being negatively impacted by it. Look, I think that free speech on publicly funded college campuses is incredibly important, regardless of what the speech is, right? As long as you're not doing something unconstitutional, inciting violence, screaming fire in a crowded room, you guys get the point. I believe in protecting that speech. I don't care if you're someone that I disagree with. I don't care if you're someone that I completely agree with. It's a free marketplace of ideas, and you can't have public employees firing people for speech or banning that type of speech.
So Washington Post pointed out, it was an unsatisfying conclusion for those who argued that tenure should not absolve Jarrar or anyone from the consequences of their vitriolic words. No, that's the whole point of tenure.
It is.
So it is to allow for words that offend, whether they're right wing or left wing, because you're in the free marketplace of ideas. Now, that leads us to point number 3, which is the hypocrisy of the right wing. And Anna got me started on this when we first covered the story, and it's been growing, this rage has been growing inside of me about their hypocrisy. So where are they? Where's all the Milos and all their defenders and the Ann Coulters, et cetera? Whenever they're getting paid a lot of money to speak on those campuses, all of a sudden, free speech, oh my God, they took my freedom of thought away. But my thoughts are all gone. Okay, now we defend those guys. Now I think that they're clowns, I think their speech is disgraceful, et cetera. You name it, any adjective you like there. but they have a right to say it, and they have a right to get paid a lot of money to say it on a college campus, and I'm in favor of that. We've been saying it from day one. But I've noticed that the right wing online is not animated about this professor's freedom of speech. All of a sudden, they couldn't care less about freedom of speech. In fact, they're the ones who want her fired for speaking out.
No, but here's the issue, and I don't feel bad about the fact that we're fair when it comes to things like this, that we're able to, look at both sides, understand what the right thing to do is, and still want to protect the speech of those that we disagree with. I think that makes you a good person who genuinely believes in the Constitution. But at the same time, I go back and forth from feeling proud of not having this ridiculous, pro-liberal, anti-conservative stance to feeling like a sucker, right? Because the reality is when conservatives do what they do at Berkeley, for instance, it's not really about protecting free speech. They have created a business out of creating a circus around them. They want attention, and the best way to get that attention is to put yourself in a victim's shoes. I am the victim. I have been banned and censored, and look at these progressives and these liberals, they're not letting me speak. It's all about getting into the news and being part of a conversation, and it's pathetic. It's pathetic.
If you're gonna do that, at least have the intellectual consistency so you could pretend later that you were honest and principled to defend the professor. But they're not going to do that. Of course they're not. So, and now you look at all the right-wingers online attacking her and offline as well. One of the guys said, this is not a matter of free speech, it's a matter of human decency.
Please.
But wait a minute, right-wingers are in favor of Ann Coulter coming onto college campuses talking about how she is upset about the browning of America.
She calls immigrants peasants. She says immigrants from Mexico are peasants and we don't want them here. Is that great speech?
Human decency, that's hilarious. And then another person declared, a lot of them do, declared what the professor said here as hate speech. No, I know you can't wait to charge others with racism even if it doesn't make any sense, or hate speech even when it doesn't make, but so I need to explain to you, because you're either purposely obtuse or really not very intelligent, what hate speech is. Hate speech isn't, I hate this person and I have spoken about them, okay? No, it is about a particular group. So there is no group of Barbara Bushes that she offended and targeted, like, man, if you're a Barbara Bush, I categorically hate you for just being a Barbara Bush. No, she did not like Barbara Bush for the things that Barbara Bush did. So for example, if you hate me, which for a lot of you right-wing trolls, check, and you want to talk about that, that is not hate speech. That it might be hateful, but it's not hate speech.
In fact, we would support you if you wanted to go on a college campus and talk about that.
That's right.
Right,
okay?
like it's crazy.
Hate speech is if you say, well, I don't like Cenk not because he's a left-wing, whatever, fill in the adjective, but I don't like him because he's a dirty Turk and I hate all dirty Turks. Okay, I guess, I mean, I'm so thick-skinned, I don't care about anything. But yes, that would be hate speech because you're attacking a whole group. All right, I have to explain to people because they don't get it. But finally, my favorite one was a guy who tweeted in, just heard that the fat, despicable pig, Randa Jarrar, won't face discipline. Unbelievable, except Fresno State campus of worthless scum. This guy wants her fired for saying offensive things. And totally missed the irony of his tweet. You just watched the video by the Young Turks, the home of the revolution. If you'd like to get the full show, come join us and become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.